Thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the Brett and Matt Show. As always, he's Brett, I'm Matt, and last week we were kind of busy, so we didn't end up doing a podcast, but we're back this week going over some NFL thoughts from week 14. So with that, we'll jump right into it. So to start things off, we'll kind of talk a little bit about the AFC, and man, there is a pretty significant injury that happened in the AFC to a specific, actually the team that I think was number one seed going into the week. The Cincinnati Bengals lose Andy Dalton on a play that he threw an interception and went to make the tackle and ended up breaking. Did he break his thumb?
Broke his thumb, yeah.
Yeah, that's devastating, man. That's killer.
They go from being, now this is a pretty outlandish, I think, though possible scenario, from being the one seed to, if somehow AJ McCarron plays like trash and they somehow lose all 3 games, they could conceivably actually miss the playoffs. That's still an actual possibility.
And you know, I mean, the AFC is kind of open. I mean, even the Bengals looked good. Obviously, now they lose Dalton. The Patriots, they get back on track, beating up on the Texans. So I don't know what you think of that. The Steelers, I think, okay, we can talk about Seattle and how hot they are, but honestly, I don't think any defense in the AFC wants to see the Steelers offense.
Oh, I don't.
Now the Steelers defense, that's a different question because their defense is terrible. But that offense is really in fact, I think it's arguably, the most explosive offense in the league. They have big play after big play. Right there with, I think, the Cardinals. But I mean, and then you got a team like the Chiefs, who've really flown kind of under the radar. I mean, for a while, people were writing off the Chiefs, and all of a sudden they've ripped off 7 straight.
I think there was a time earlier in the season, because I think I picked the Chiefs, or one of us picked the Chiefs to win the division or make the playoffs.
That was you. I picked the stupid Chargers, I think.
Well, I think I also have Baltimore. But yeah, we had a podcast, and I was like, damn, it looks like my pick was way off. Now, they're still not going to win, probably, the West. But they are definitely in that playoff hunt right now, and if the playoffs started today, they'd be in. And they have a relatively, easier schedule, I think, down the stretch than the guys that are trying to fight for that, 5th, 6th spot, with the Jets who have to play the Patriots still, and the Steelers still have the Broncos. So the Chiefs could actually finish the season on like a 10-game winning streak, and I actually expect them to do that. And they'd have 11 wins, and they're going to make the playoffs after starting 1-5.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Although, I mean, obviously, the season isn't ending today, obviously, but it is worth mentioning that if it did end, the Steelers would not be in the playoffs. Yeah, honestly, this is how I feel. I think some team's going to get screwed. And I know you said off camera you didn't think the Jets were a very good team, but someone's going to get screwed and get left at home between the Steelers, the Jets, and the Chiefs.
And yeah, I think it's going to be the Jets, mostly because of all 3 teams that are fighting for that spot, and though it's possible, obviously, like I just mentioned, that the Bengals could be, if they lose a couple games, also fighting for a wild card spot. I don't fear the Jets like I do the Steelers. I mean, like you mentioned, that offense, Ben Roethlisberger might be playing better than any quarterback in the league right now, when he's got some great receivers. And Bryant and Brown, and then you also even have, like Marcus Wheaton adds even more speed. I don't know how they do it, but they add more speed to that team. They're playing really good, and that, at least offensively, is pretty scary. Defense doesn't really scare me that much either, but I mean, that's the team that I definitely don't want to face in the playoffs and try to get into a shootout with them, because I don't probably have the corners to be able to cover 3 guys effectively.
That's true. And with the Steelers, you have a quarterback that's been there, experienced. Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I don't think anyone wants to see the Steelers. Kind of looking at the AFC, though. So with the Andy Dalton injury, Where do you see the Bengals ending up now? Do you still think they win the North? Do you think the Steelers end up winning the North?
I think so. You look at the Bengals' schedule coming up. I mean, they still have the 49ers this week, which
it's a good warm-up game.
It could be. I mean,
maybe.
It's probably going to be a low-scoring game because I expect the Bengals defense to be able to shut down the 49ers, but I just don't know what, McCarron's going to do. But they also have, after that, then the Broncos and the Ravens. Like, they got to win one of those games to be the North champion. And I don't see them losing to all three of those teams. That just seems pretty low, especially with the 49ers and Baltimore on there. Like, those teams
should be able to honestly probably beat both those teams still.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is playing with a backup quarterback. I mean, 49ers, Broncos, and Ravens, they all have backups in. So, one of them was promoted, I think, to starter, and then the other one happened to be hurt with Kaepernick, but whatever. I mean, so all the quarterbacks in those three games will be backups with the Bengals plus their opponents. And then the Steelers, they probably can also go undefeated, but that's obviously not going to help. So I still see the Bengals probably they're the 2 or the 3 seed. That's really the only option. I don't think that they're going to jump New England for the 1.
You think Denver gets the number 2 seed? Then I'm guessing.
It's tough because there's weeks where I want to say, hey, they look pretty good, but I can also actually see Denver losing this week to the Steelers, which basically puts the Bengals in the seat for the 2 spot. I'm going to say the Bengals still get a 2, and the Broncos, despite having a defense that only gave up like 130 yards this week to Oakland and still managed to lose, I think they'll find a way to lose at least one more game than the Bengals do down the stretch. I'm going to actually say the Bengals get the 2.
That's fair. I actually think the Broncos are going to win this week. I think they're going to beat the Steelers. Actually, time out, I lied. Do you know where that game is?
It's in Pittsburgh.
Oh, dang it. Shoot. If it would have been in Denver, I was liking that pick, but now I'm not feeling so good that I just said that.
Picks aren't locked in until Thursday.
That's true. It's amazing. I guess I really value home field that much, but I just don't see Denver beating Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh when Pittsburgh needs to win to make the playoffs.
And then the following week,
you're on the outside looking in, so they got to keep winning to have a chance.
Basically, it comes down to whoever wins Broncos versus Bengals. And I guess I almost feel more confident in the Broncos simply because Osweiler's going to have played more. And that gives them, I think, the edge at the quarterback spot. But I don't know. And that defense is still really good. Cincinnati's defense has been playing pretty decent. It just comes down to that game. Like, it doesn't really matter. It does matter, but it's basically that game. And that game is going to be played in Denver. So that, since you're a home field guy, that might give you that leg up.
I'm going to be rolling with Denver. That's true. Looking at some other AFC stuff, oh boy, what is going on in the AFC South? The Colts in the division lead. You being there in Indy. What's the vibe in Indianapolis right
now? I don't think a single person actually believes this team is any good, and they know that they don't belong in the playoffs. But they also know that they just happen to be just as bad as every other team in the South. So the biggest thing, it really comes down to this week, really. Well, actually, the Texans actually play all the teams in the South to close out the schedule. And then Jacksonville does avoid the Colts because they just destroyed them this last week, 51-16. That is so sad.
Can't believe I picked the Colts in that game.
It was a toss-up, okay? It was a toss-up. Yeah, but the feeling is that it doesn't matter who makes the playoff because, 1, they probably didn't deserve it, and 2, they're going to get crushed when they do make it there. And 3 is I don't think anybody down here is actually super confident that they can beat the Texans right now, especially after what happened last week. I mean, I know this last week, Houston didn't look great against New England. Not many teams look great against New England. And J.J. Watt with playing with one hand obviously did not have the impact that he normally does.
No.
But that's still, it was nice to see, Clowney actually got a couple sacks, and Whitney Merciless had a great spin move up the middle for a sack. So he's still opening things up. And if they can continue to get that production, all they need is T.J. Yates to just take care of the ball. And actually, it'd be nice if that tight end that dropped like 3 passes would have caught some of those against New England. That would have helped as well, as far as Houston goes. I think of all those teams, they all don't have a hard schedule. I mean, they all play teams from – Jacksonville has the Falcons, the Saints, and the Texans. The Texans have everybody from the South, so the Colts, Titans, Jaguars. And then the Colts obviously have the Texans, the Dolphins, and the Titans. I think the Colts probably have the harder schedule because they at least play a Dolphins team that's sort of okay. And then the head-to-head match against the Texans is obviously basically like the tiebreaker. And Jacksonville probably could win all those games. like they could conceivably win every game or lose all of them. Like each team, obviously, other than the ones where they play each other, because they're just that bad. But their schedules also don't seem to be intimidating whatsoever.
It's true. The AFC South is kind of up for grabs, and and looking at switching gears now, and I gotta say one thing quick. I guess we could actually go into some NFC talk now. I read a funny stat that the Cowboys can still make the playoffs, but they're also eligible for the #1 overall pick if things fall right.
Yes.
How is that possible?
They technically have, based on, I'm looking at playoffrace.com, they have a 1% chance of making the playoffs. Basically, you have to win every game, and let's see where this code. So they have to win every single game, which include games against the Jets, the Bills, and the Redskins. And then obviously also have to have the Redskins lose every single game, which is possible because they do have obviously the Cowboys. They also have the Bills and the Eagles, but then you also need like the Giants to lose. Like every game. I don't even know what the exact scenario is because somebody's going to win a game since the Giants play the Eagles. And then the Giants play. Yeah, they do play the Eagles.
Yeah, that's just that's ridiculous. So I guess switching gears a little bit and talking about some NFC stuff. I guess we'll kind of start things off with our Packers and then kind of go into just the overall picture of the NFC and some thoughts on that. But did you get a chance to watch the Packer game this week?
I did not, no.
Oh, Brett, it was on national TV because for whatever reason, Fox and America's Game of the Week just love throwing the Packers on national TV, which I guess we do have a lot of fans across the country, so maybe that makes sense. But so anyways, I mean, there's all sorts of talk what was going on, and Coach McCarthy ends up taking back the play calling duties, and I gotta say,
you've been saying is something that should have happened for a very long time.
We've been wanting that to happen for weeks, and it finally happens, and right away, the offense just looks different. It just clicks. The run game clicks. Rodgers is completing passes. It looked like it was back to being Packers football. And you know what? I understand what he's trying to do. There was only like one situation. I really scratched my head at the play call, and I was like, I wouldn't have called that. But so it was, I think we were like around our own 30-yard line. It was 3rd and 1, I think, maybe 3rd and 2, but I'm pretty sure it was 3rd and 1. And for whatever reason, we just have really struggled with picking those up this year. And Coach calls a play action pass, and the idea is to run the play action and throw it to the fullback. And we run the play, and Rolando McClain, plays it perfectly and undercuts the fullback. And Rodgers has no choice. Good thing he's a veteran quarterback inside, and just throws it up out of bounds. Like he knows, like if try to throw this is going to be picked off. And I was just thinking, like, what are you doing? Like, this is a situation we need to keep the ball, like, we need to keep the drive going, and we call that as, like, I was like, you have a guy like John Kuhn who, for whatever reason, no one seems to understand or be able to stop the fullback dive. And we decided not to do it. Yeah, so that's the one play call I had issue with, but the Packers overall had like 230 yards combined rushing. Haven't had a total like that since 2004. Eddie Lacy looked, like
refreshed.
Refreshed, yes. I guess you could call that. And Starks kind of showed off a little bit of a gear that I kind of didn't know he had. I mean, I always knew he was fast, but there was actually the play that ended up putting the Packers up 21-7. It was 2nd and 25, and we call a draw, and it was just they brought a blitz, and the draw worked, and all of a sudden Starks saw the safeties closing, and all of a sudden he kind of hit another gear and just got up by him before you know it, he's in the end zone. Like,
was that a 30-yard touchdown?
Yeah, well, that was fun to see, but
I got a text message. I was at work, so that's why I wasn't able to watch the game. But I got a text message from somebody, and they were like, "I'll never understand coaching. Lacy's pushing the pile on every play, and you don't go to him at all inside the 3-yard line." And then they sent the next message right away, and they're like, "Not to mention Cobb was never out of bounds on that one play." Do you know what that situation was there where we didn't run the ball inside the 3?
Yes, I do know. There were a couple times where I was wondering why we didn't stick with Lacy. And the play that Cobb got ruled out of bounds, it was close. It would have been really close. And since it was ruled out of bounds, I don't know if we would have had enough to overturn it anyways. It would have been close. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it just, I just gotta say, it was. It's probably nothing against Tom Clemens. I know Tom Clemens and McCarthy they were both brought in like the same time, so they obviously have a really good relationship. And I'm sure it's hard to tell a really good friend that hey, I need to take this job away from you and go back to doing what I do. Probably not the easiest thing, but I think it was the right decision. And Aaron made sure in his press conference not to throw Clemens under the bus. He just said, the team executed better this week and stuff. But honestly, I think some guys have a knack for calling a game, and I think McCarthy's one of them. Like, it just seemed like there's so many times where we called the play, and it's like McCarthy knew what the defense was gonna do. Like, there was one play we called like a random tight end screen, and we faked the run and we play action it, and then we throw the screen to the backside, and it's like, I don't know. I think there's just a knack to doing it, and I think McCarthy just is, has a better feel for the game, I guess.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah, I'm just glad that that's something that he finally did. I read something. I think it was just a short little tweet, but yeah, it was right. It was like how do you go about telling a buddy, hey man, I gave you this promotion, this responsibility. It's not working out. I'm taking it back. But as professionals and as friends, and that's probably something that I would hope that the coach understands, sure, for the betterment of the team sort of deal. No, Rodgers, to his point, said that he didn't think there was much of a difference between play calling, and it didn't matter. He just said we happened to execute better today. At the same time, though, I will say I find it interesting that Davante Adams was only targeted 3 times the entire game, when that dude was averaging fucking 20 targets a game over the last few weeks. So I don't know.
He also got himself benched for a little bit. He did, because we had a really nice running play and he held on the play. Actually, okay, it was kind of a bullshit call, but I mean, receivers actually it was one of those quick where Cobb runs just a really quick little
sweep sort of thing,
sweep kind of route, and Rodgers hits him quick, and Devontae's up the field blocking, and Devontae clearly had his arms around the guy, in the back of the jersey, probably that's gonna get called. I understand you're a receiver, and you're not really generally supposed to be the number one lead blocker, but that play really hurt and ended up getting him benched. But I mean, Rodgers still threw the ball to him a couple times. He had a couple catches. Aberderis got on the field. Don't think he did anything, but he did get on the field. And Richard Rodgers scored another touchdown. The guy, I think he's got like 7 touchdowns on the season. This was more of a red zone situation, though. Just
I mean, we didn't throw a 60-yard Hail Mary to him again?
Nah, this is the Bubba Franks type play is what I call it.
Frank speed is what he's got.
Hey, you know what? Kind of looks like him too a little bit, at least body wise. But I guess the only other thing I'd say about the Packers is they did just extend Mike Daniels a $42 million 4-year deal. I think it's a good deal for Green Bay. I've said it a couple times off air. I don't know if I've said it on camera. But I really was kind of worried coming this offseason that we were going to lose Daniels because honestly, he could probably have gotten more money for sure from someone else. There's always someone that's willing to overpay, to get that free agent. And Daniels made it clear that he wanted to stay in Green Bay, that he didn't want to leave. And he said, like, he's always kind of had a chip on his shoulder because he was taken later and people always told him he was too small to play and doesn't play the run good and all this kind of stuff. And I think it's good the Packers locked him up. And Pro Football Focus also, I know, has put out some stats pretty much saying that, he's one of the best interior 3-4 defensive ends in the game today.
Yeah, that was good. Him and I feel like all of our guys play a lot better than they probably necessarily get credit for because you think now, like, okay, so J.J. Watt's a 3-4 guy. How come, like, all our dudes aren't putting up 15 sacks a year as 3-4 ends? Well, they got a lot of other responsibilities, too, and they probably aren't allowed to freelance like J.J. can.
But as much as I like to tease about J.J. Watt being the Defensive Player of the Year to you, Brett, I will admit he's a pretty special talent, okay? There's this – I don't know what you want me to say. There's just not a whole lot of other players that can do what he does.
Yeah, but at the same time, I mean, like everyone else, like Daniels I think he's like rated like second or something or second or he's top 5 basically in like most of the statistics that Pro Football Focus keeps track of, as far as like rushing the passer and doing it with the pass and like penalties and stuff like that. So he's definitely one of the better ends, underappreciated, and it's a good thing that we got him locked up.
Yeah, so looking at the overall picture now for the NFC, I don't think it's quite the same race as the AFC. I mean, your teams are kind of there. Minnesota lost this week, but they have some breathing room because Tampa Bay and Atlanta were busy losing games. So, I mean, Minnesota's still got a nice cushion for that wild card spot. Seattle is just lighting teams up. It's amazing. They keep losing. I mean, they lost Jimmy Graham. They lose Rowles. Is that the guy's name?
Rowles, and Marshawn Lynch has been out.
So all of a sudden, Seattle's been forced to kind of sling the ball around, and they are doing a really good job. Russell Wilson is he's just lighting. It's probably between him and Cam Newton, but they're between like the two guys that are hottest right now, just slinging the rock. Gotta say, I mean, Seattle's a team no one wants to play in the playoffs. If they get things together, I think teams are gonna have to watch out a little bit.
It's funny that they do lose 2 stars in Graham and Lynch, and then even Rawls he's been a really good back too.
It's been really good for them.
Gonna make it sort of easy for them to just say goodbye to Lynch whenever they need to and not worry about trying to re-sign him because we got Rawls who's making Russell Wilson rookie type money, $400,000 a year versus $10 million a year. But yeah, with both of them hurt, it makes it interesting that's when the offense is actually played best because it's like, okay, so now you don't have to force feed somebody like Graham and you don't have to force feed somebody like Lynch. You just kind of run the plays and it forces, I think, Russell to go through his progressions a little bit. He's not just freaking out because of a pass rush. Also might be a thing. Maybe the offensive line's playing a little better. I'm not sure. But they, it's kind of weird, you know. And we always make fun of their running or receivers, and all of a sudden, I mean, come on, Baldwin, he's been lights out lately. The guy's had like two. Did he have 3 touchdowns again this week, or just 2? Just 2, and I say that because he would have had 5 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks. I mean, he's been playing great. Tyler Lockett has been doing phenomenal. Big play guy. He's making the hard catches too. 2 weeks in a row, he's taken a hit from a safety, like on a sideline route, held onto it. Great ball placement, great catch through the big hit. I don't know, man. It's just they do seem scary. Now I know you brought it up off camera. They haven't necessarily played the best of defenses, though, right?
Played a bunch of soft. Come on. Are you serious? The Ravens defense, the Steelers defense, the Vikings lost 4 players in the game that they played against them. I mean, I understand, like, you can only – there's 2 sides to every coin. I mean, you can only do, who's in front of you sort of thing. So I do understand that. Now, if Russell Wilson goes into Arizona and puts up 5 touchdowns, okay. I'll take back everything I
said. Yeah, probably not going to happen on that defense. Or hell, probably I don't even know about the Rams. Could happen again versus the Browns.
The Rams play their division tough.
Yeah, the Rams are weird. They suck,
tough, but they play their division tough.
They suck, but they play everyone tough in the division. I don't know how or why that is, but I mean it's true. But you look at it at some of the games that they had lost earlier in the year, right? So Seattle lost to Carolina earlier. They scored 32 points that game. It was just Carolina scored 39. And then they had a couple of those games.
Seattle, though.
What's that?
That was in Seattle, though, where Seattle hardly ever loses. That's a big time win.
Yeah. So that was in Seattle. They also lost to Carolina in Seattle, in which they had the lead in the 4th quarter and then got outscored by 10 points in the 4th. It was 20-14. I mean, it was the same sort of situation the week before that when they lost to the Bengals, 24-27 in overtime, where they had the lead, offense went conservative, didn't do anything, and then the defense gave up the game-winning drive at the end.
Are you trying to tell me the Legion of Boom is to blame for this?
It might have been Kerry Williams. He's not on the team anymore, so I think they're probably better off.
Didn't they pay him money?
They did. I think they signed him to a 3-year deal, and they just cut him out partway like 2 weeks ago or last week because obviously wasn't worth it. Didn't fit in whatsoever to what they're trying to do. So I think he's legitimately the guy that got burned against the Bengals and the Panthers, like on their game-winning drives. So they said.
Oh, I think the game-winning drive against the Panther was the one Greg Olsen caught the touchdown against, and I think Cam Chancellor or Richard Sherman were busy looking at each other, wondering who was supposed to cover him.
Yeah, but there was like a whole drive before that. But I know the Bengals one was Kerry Williams. He almost gave up a huge play. I think that got called back to AJ Green or somebody that was like a big player touchdown, and thankfully got called back. So they just got rid of him. So I think they're probably even better off now. They'll win 2 of those games, maybe all 3. It depends on if the Cardinals are just going to sit their guys. Because if the Cardinals win a couple games, and they can have that spot locked up as far as the number 2 seed goes at that point, since it's the last game. I mean, maybe Seattle wins all 3 and they become a 5 seed, and then they would get to play whoever the hell wins the East, probably advancing and then getting to play Carolina in the 2nd round.
That's true. I mean, Seattle's hot. I mean, the Packers are on the outside looking in for the number 2 seed. They do play Arizona head-to-head, so that if things fall right, that could be the difference between who's number 2 seed and number 3 seed. So that's interesting. I think Seattle is going to lock up the 5 seed. If I was a betting man, I think Seattle is going to be the 5th seed. I just don't think they're going to catch Arizona.
For them to be that seed, they have to win out, I think, and they have to have Arizona lose the rest of their games. And Arizona gets to play Philadelphia, so
probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, though, with the Buccaneers and Atlanta, with them losing, the Vikings, they do have they have a 2-game cushion on those teams. I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to get the 6th seed. The Seahawks obviously own the tiebreaker against them because they beat them head to head. So, like we kind of said earlier, just there's not a whole lot of movement probably happening. I mean, stuff could happen. I mean, you just don't know. But I feel like the NFC playoff picture is a little more set in stone.
Basically, it comes down to everybody's pretty much set in place with the exception of whoever wins the East, which is still a huge fight between the Redskins, the Eagles, and the Giants, and somehow the Cowboys, but not likely. So that's the Eagle. I don't even know how any of these teams are still in it, man. They all stink too. They're like, this is almost as bad as the AFC South. It's equivalent to the AFC South, really.
The NFC East?
Yeah.
Dude, the NFC East is garbage. It's terrible.
At least the Titans aren't still in the playoff hunt like the Cowboys are.
That's true. What I want to know is, what the heck is wrong with the Giants? They should be way better than their record says. Just saying. Like, I don't get it.
Well, hey, now they got the one-handed JPP back helping provide pass rush. Maybe they will get better, at least on that side. And offensively, they can still be pretty scary because Odell Beckham Jr. is obviously top 5, arguably the best in the NFL. I mean, there's quite a bit of an argument to be had there between the guys like him and Antonio Brown. And some other type of players, but Julio Jones probably deserves to be up there if he didn't have Matt Ryan throwing him the ball. Maybe he'd be.
Brett, come on! You had to take one dig at him. My goodness.
He did. Come on, you even
it's
said
not his fault. Okay, you know what? Apparently, we were just all too hyped up about Atlanta, and they showed us who they really have been the last how many weeks that they've lost.
Too many.
Yeah, that's just depressing. I don't know. The last little topic I got for you. Do you think the Panthers can legitimately run the table here?
I think that they can run the table in the regular season. And I think...
You think they lose in the postseason, huh?
I do. I think they would lose. I think there's a potential for them to lose based on who would be in the playoffs. I mean, I think they would beat the Vikings and they'd beat the Redskins. The Cardinals are really good. I think they should be afraid of Seattle.
You think Seattle, the Cardinals, and the Packers could potentially beat the Panthers if they end up facing them?
The Packers are one of those teams that I still don't know how much. Obviously, they're our team. I don't know how much I trust them right now. Of the
one thing you got to say, though, I mean, look what it came down to in the regular season against Carolina, right? Mm-hmm. And we weren't on track with anything. It still came down to one play. Like, we were obviously in the game against Carolina.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing that has probably why, you're saying, like, you think they will lose in the postseason because they don't have that, like, elite offense that can just rack up points. So their games are going to be close. And you just wonder if, they do go against a hot Seattle team or an Arizona team, or say even the Packers if they get their mojo back, and they do go against a team that can put up points. If they'll be able to keep pace. The one thing you gotta say though, and I'm a pretty firm believer of it, defense wins championships. So, I mean, I don't know. It's tough to say, but I understand why you feel that way because they're probably going to be in some tight games.
Yeah, I mean, you go back through their season and you look at some of the games. Like I said, the Seattle game, they were losing the entire game until the end. They were blowing out the Colts, somehow let the Colts back into it, and had to win in overtime. Green Bay's game came down to the last play, right? That was like the fourth and goal.
It came down to 4th and goal, yep.
And then they had the Saints game last week where they gave up 38 points. It was just, they're also thankfully playing perhaps the worst defense in NFL history in New Orleans, so they were able to score 41. So, I mean, they've won every game, but they've been in a lot of close ones as well where you say, damn, like they're not this world beater, type team. Despite their 13-0 record, they still have had to have won a lot of really close contested games, and they've been able to do that, but it's harder and harder to do that continuously. You look at what happened with Golden State recently where they lost to the Bucks, but they had some games where it was tight. Like the game before, I think, went to like double overtime. against like the Jazz or whomever. It was not a good team, but it's really hard to continue to win and continue to win, especially the close games. At some point, those are what I call like it's basically the luck games where literally like a bounce of the ball. If you throw a bad pass that's dropped by a defender versus one that's caught by a defender type stuff, for a turnover versus an incomplete pass, like those things matter, and they have been able to win those games, but I don't think that that's a sustainable way to keep winning, especially in the playoffs when you start playing everybody that's good, minus obviously Washington, New York, or Philly. Whoever makes it from there, they're still not good.
It's definitely true. Gosh, I've been a big Cam Newton supporter since he came in the league. Gosh darn it all, I don't know, man.
Doing good.
I am, and I know you specifically didn't like Cam Newton, but the guy I think he does a lot off the field too. Look what he does for all the kids.
He does, and I like that he throws the ball, or not throws the ball, but hands the ball off to people in the stands. When that ref threw the ball away from him a couple weeks ago, then he went and chased it down from the ball boy, and then like ran back to the fan. I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of a dick move by the ref's part. And then like the ball boy was like hesitant at first, but then Cam's just like, "Bitch, give that to me," and he just stole it and just ran away. So, no, he's fun, and obviously he's like also one of like the most photogenic dudes too. Like he's always I don't think I've ever seen a picture of him where he's like looking like a bad picture. It's weird. So he's just got like this nice marketability to him. Has the fun, obviously playing great MVP caliber level. It's fun, and I'm not gonna hate on the guy for that.
Carolina could potentially sweep the MVP awards for defense and obviously the NFL MVP. So that could be interesting.
NFL offensive player and Kuechly. I think Kuechly's probably more in front of Norman, just because Kuechly has been doing some really. He's playing lights out, man.
Yeah, he's crazy.
Pro Football Focus said when they created their new system, they studied like everything in their history, and they then like readjusted everything. And Kuechly broke their scale already in year one of their new scale. So, yeah, he's obviously playing really damn good.
Yeah, he is. So with that said, just saw some breaking news. So since we are Wisconsin fans here, Montee Ball was signed by the Patriots to their practice squad today. What just is breaking though is that LeGarrette Blount has been placed on IR with a hip injury. So maybe there's a reason they signed Ball. Granted, it's just the practice squad, but they might be preparing to that. They might need a running back at some point.
I wonder if that's just going to be like a 1 week thing, because who do they play this week? The Titans. They could probably get away with like Brandon Bolden and James White, but obviously you're going to want more than 2 running backs going into the playoffs. So I wonder if this is just a thing like, hey, here's our playbook, study your ass off for a week or two, and then, come the end of the season, we'll give you some carries, and then going into the playoffs, we'll have that bye week, hopefully, for you to get, all caught up. So if we need you, we can have you. Because, they've got the Titans next week, like I said, then the Jets and the Dolphins. That Jets game won't be an easy one.
Not against the Patriots, it won't, because they play them tough.
But then the Dolphins. So that'll be kind of fun. Glad to see Monty getting another chance. I'm surprised that he hadn't been signed to, like you mentioned, as a practice squad. It took 15 weeks for a team to say, all right, you can practice with us. For God's sakes, like what the hell was I don't know if there were some other issues there that teams are worried about, or they just don't give a shit about the running back position, which is also probably part of it. But I was glad to see him and James White. Now they can do their little touchdown dance every time James scores, because it probably won't be Monty. It'll probably be James more likely scoring. So.
It's true. Now they just need to get Melvin Gordon in there, and they'll have all 3 running backs from Wisconsin.
Like I said, trade for Russell Wilson. Just straight up trade, Seattle. All right, we'll have this 2011 Badger offense in here.
I think the Patriots would rather have Tom Brady, Brett.
Probably, especially if he says he's going to play for 10 more years or 5 more years, whatever it is.
I think they'd rather have Tom Brady for 2 years than trade for Russell Wilson for the next how many years, maybe. They have a young backup.
Oh, that's true. That dude got Jimmy. Forgot about Jimmy. Maybe he'll be like every other New England backup and stink. Looking at you, Ryan Mallett, Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, is there anything else you got on your plate to talk about?
I don't believe so.
The one quick mention I gotta give a shout out to: the Milwaukee Bucks beat the Golden State Warriors. They ended the streak. That was pretty exciting. The state was actually talking about the Bucks quite a bit this week. That was fun.
That is fun. Now maybe they can use that as some sort of momentum to actually be a decent team, because so far they're not even close to
a guy you made fun of, the Moose, dude. He should be an all-star. Okay, he's the only one. I know. Apparently, the Pacers game he was bad. He's the only one that's consistently showing up week after game after game. It seems like.
That's true. I will say in that game too, it looked like the Bucks made some really lucky shots. Like every Michael Carter Williams shot that goes in, I'm pretty sure is a lucky shot.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he had a couple of he's in the lane. He's in the lane and he gets fouled and just chucks it up and it like went in. I'm like, okay. Like I'd never expect him to make that shot. Also something we didn't mention is where we are at for our pick'em.
Yeah, you're right. The pick'em. I know. I think Tsunami is still in first.
He is. He's got a 2-point lead on Jeremy's terrible picks, and then a 4-point lead on you, and it's Eric Odell.
Dude, you caught up, by the way. Yes.
And then I'm all the way up to fifth.
You're way behind, dude. You realize you could still make a run at this thing.
I could. I will need some luck. Basically, if my week 2, where I got 3 picks right, would have been a little different, I'd be even more into this thing. But totally botched week 2. I might as well not even pick that week. Joe Veek, our early season leader, all the way down to 7th right now.
Yeah.
Did he not make picks this last week? But I basically just wanted to bring up that I'm in the top 5 now. That's all I really care about. It's not a total disgrace at this point.
So with that said, I think that wraps up this week's show. Next week, hopefully the playoff picture, at least in the AFC, might become a little bit more clear. I feel like they're still capable. There's still some teams with quite a bit of movement left there. So we'll see. Otherwise, until next week.